Most versatile and endearing actresses of the past half-century has died. Diane.
Actress Diane Keaton has died in California. She was 79 years old. Keaton's family made the announcement but did not specify a cause.
They say the world dims a little every time a legend leaves. But what if the darkness that followed wasn't the usual kind? What if it was laced with questions? Secrets so strange that even Los Angeles's most jaded doctors talked in low voices, afraid to put their wonder into words. October 11th, 2025. The news came quietly, almost as if Hollywood was afraid to wake itself from a dream. Diane Keaton, Annie Hall, the Queen of Quirk, the woman who made hats dangerous and awkwardness irresistible, was gone. 79 years old, they said, and resting at last. Official cause? Pneumonia. But if you scratch the surface, listen closely to those late-night whispers in Brentwood and hospital corridors, you'll realize nobody thinks that's the whole story. A sealed report, a specialist's trembling hand, and a chain reaction inside her body so bizarre, so unprecedented, that it stopped a forensic doctor cold after 30 years on the job. He glanced at the results, reread the numbers, felt his heartbeat stutter as he tried, and failed, to explain what he saw. Not pneumonia, he muttered, every syllable lost to the bone-cold air. Something different. Something I'll never see again. Sounds like the start of an old Hollywood plot, doesn't it? But behind the drama, there's truth. In the quiet basement of Cedars-Sinai, long after midnight, staff crowded around the autopsy table. The room was hush, thick with old secrets and carefully measured fear. Diane's body bore no wounds, no injections, just a strange silvery mark on her shoulder. 7 centimeters long, oddly waxy and cold, shimmering under the fluorescent haze. One whispered, "It almost looks like tissue restarting, not failing." No one argued. They knew her history, those years hiding from the sun, the scars from early surgeries. The cell patterns under the microscope didn't match pneumonia. Something inside her had flipped a biological switch, triggered a chain they'd never seen on any chart or in any text. And then, almost as suddenly as it appeared, the report vanished. No one knows who sealed the data. Computers crashed, records scrubbed clean, teams sworn to silence with confidentiality agreements slid across cold desks before sunrise. One by one, those closest to the case disappeared or transferred away. A story erased, except for the ones who remember what they saw. But that's not where this ends, because whispers grew into theories. Some say her immune system, battered by decades of autoimmune disorders and wounds both visible and hidden, turned on itself in those last hours. Others recall that strange glow, lung tissue responding to blue light, as if it remembered decades-old phototherapy sessions better than any doctor could. Then there are the real conspiracy theorists who talk about lost samples and bizarre cell clusters, unlike anything else in medicine. They say it was more like the body trying to renew itself, desperately clinging to life, than merely giving up. On the surface, all anyone saw was a neat announcement. Pneumonia, the family said in a statement. Nothing more. Outpourings of grief, calls for donations to animal shelters, a gentle request for privacy. Behind closed doors, her world shrank to a cold, silent house in Brentwood. Curtains always drawn, the air kept just chilly enough that she claimed it soothed her nerves and thinned her breath. Those who visited in her final weeks saw the changes. A face gone softly translucent, hands forever gloved. A voice that seemed to drift, getting lighter day by day, as if she was already halfway to somewhere else. But the real story, the one that keeps people awake, starts much further back. In the 1970s, Diane was still just a bold new star, unafraid to be herself. But a spot on her temple led to her first surgery for basal cell carcinoma, a pioneer's fate in an era when Hollywood knew nothing about sunblock, and actors sacrificed skin for the camera's hungry light. Her scars became a hidden obsession, sparking decades of nightly walks, hats that shaded more than style, and therapies that would change her forever. Some say those treatments, bathed in ultraviolet, altered her body's very code. A lingering mutation described just once, years later, in a research paper quietly shelved at UCLA. There was always a fragility about Diane. In her memoir, she confessed to years battling bulimia, an invisible war that weakened her from the inside out. It left old wounds on her nervous and immune systems, shadows her doctors said could echo for a lifetime. And so they did. Respiratory infections, skin that reacted to the sun like a newborn's, and most chillingly, a body that refused to follow the normal rules of recovery or decline. If Diane's life was a balancing act, then her death was something else, an end on a knife's edge, neither accident nor surrender. Through it all, she remained the same, funny, private, a little distant, but always gracious. Her house was a monument to order, no flowers or television or sunlight, just notebooks on every shelf and black and white photos of the men who shared her most famous scenes. Woody Allen, Warren Beatty, Al Pacino. Lovers, rivals, soulmates. She never married, but her friendships and failed romances became the stuff of legend. She called herself a solitary, joking about tidying up the light before she said goodbye. In her last will, the vast majority went to her 2 children and skin cancer research. And in the last note to an old friend, "I've lived close to light for too long. Now I want to see if there's peace in the dark. We want answers, but some stories don't allow them. The official records repeat themselves with eerie precision. Bacterial pneumonia. End of file." But in coffee shops near the hospital, young doctors still ask each other about the patient whose body refused to cool, whose skin retained a sharp silver shine, whose death report vanished, replaced in the system by a blank entry. They debate 3 theories: autoimmune, photomutant, metabolic collapse. But deep down, they know they're staring into mystery, not medicine. Her loved ones say Diane chose her moment, that she fated the way she lived, quietly on her own terms. But those who saw her file, those who lost sleep counting through the vanished data, will always wonder if the truth of her ending will ever be known. Some cases, they say, are better left in peace. Maybe that's what Diane wanted most. Not a great Hollywood ending, but a final faded page. The story of a woman whose body was a battleground between light and darkness, science and secrets, resilience and surrender. The curtain falls, but the mystery lingers. And so we're left with a question that refuses to rest. In a city built on answers, what do you believe really happened on that silent October night? Leave your thoughts below, and if you want more stories that tiptoe to the edge of what's known, subscribe for the next untold chapter.
The end of the life is when you're dead. I mean, there's no end. There's no end. It's too exciting. Life is too profoundly amazing.